Welcome back, everyone. Michael here with Offshore Citizen. One of our viewers, NG, thank you for the suggestion, asked me to create a video about crypto-friendly banks, Dubai versus Portugal. I'm going to cover more than just Dubai and Portugal. I'm going to talk about crypto-friendly banks, Dubai versus Portugal versus other, and I'll cover a few of the places because I haven't talked about this in a while, but it is important to note some of the places, if you're interested, where you can get good banking. So I'll cover some of the banking in general. Personal banking, business banking, private banking, and then with a specific focus on crypto for the purpose of on and off ramps. So let's dive in. Before we do, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button, hit the all notifications bell. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. Appreciate the support, share it with your friends. And if you would like help with these subjects that we deal with here, which is forming companies, opening bank accounts, international tax optimization, getting residencies, relocating to places like Portugal or Dubai, getting citizenships around the world, etc., please reach out to me. You can book a call, calendly.com/Michael-Rosmer. There's a link in the description below. Or you can send a message through our websites, offshorecitizen.net and offshorecapitalist.com. Okay. Well, so just like the basic thing is Portugal has quite friendly banks for crypto. Dubai does not have friendly banks for crypto. So I sometimes have calls with people where they're saying, hey, I've heard that Dubai is not crypto friendly or something like that. Dubai itself has no problems with crypto. In fact, you can buy a lot of property with crypto, etc. But Dubai banks are, in the words of our one private banker, not only are banks not friendly, they're not friendly to crypto. So this is not a place that you would bank typically. Now, there are some very good OTC services. So if you wanted to cash out, anywhere from, thousands to hundreds of thousands. I don't know if you can do millions very easily, but thousands to hundreds of thousands. This is very doable through local OTC services at super cheap prices. So that's one option. It takes a little bit of time, but frankly, alarmingly good. Now, on the Portuguese side, by contrast, there's a lot of crypto-friendly banks and very friendly. I would say that maybe Portugal is the most crypto-friendly banking system in Europe. Now, this is basically true for personal banking because you're typically not going to do business banking in Portugal. So let's just talk about this. So first of all, when a person goes to get residency in Portugal, part of the process is they end up opening a bank account. And you can off-ramp ridiculously easily at a lot of banks in Portugal, at least for the time being, which is great. Okay, so we often help people with that. However, you wouldn't typically want to operate through a Portuguese business at all, and Portuguese banks will typically not open accounts for foreign businesses. So from a business account standpoint, Portugal is kind of off the table. From a personal account standpoint, it's perfectly good. On a private banking side, I wouldn't say that Portugal has particularly sophisticated or great options in terms of private banking. So I think it's useful for off-ramping. I think obviously if you're living there, that's great. If you're wanting to keep some money there, that's great. But as a place to store large amounts of money and get sophisticated services and things like this, I wouldn't typically use Portugal. Okay. In that case, I would generally use some place like Switzerland. Liechtenstein could be one, although it's a little complicated. The fees are kind of weird. Or someplace like Singapore. Maybe in some cases, there's banks in the US on that side. Now for Americans, there's a bunch of crypto-friendly banks in the US. For example, USAA, if you can qualify to go there, very crypto-friendly. Ally tends to be quite crypto-friendly. There's a bunch. So there's kind of a spectrum, and since there's dozens of banks, I'm not going to go through specifically for you. But some are kind of like what I would call crypto-neutral. Others are really good, and others are more on the negative side. I generally find that banks in Europe tend to be more on the negative side than banks in the US in general. You can typically, if you're going to get banking in for a company, you'll typically most easily look at a place like Lithuania. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of great options for foreign companies for banking. Now, if you're talking about domestically, for example, in Bulgaria, Postbank is quite crypto-friendly. Of the major banks, again, there's some spectrum, etc., but a lot of them will explicitly tell you no on crypto. For example, I believe Raiffeisen is no last time I checked. But Postbank is one that is explicitly yes, and so that's useful. It does a little bit depend in terms of a lot of these banks on where the money is coming from. So for example, they're often more comfortable with, say, Coinbase and Kraken, which, Kraken has got a banking license now. Coinbase is a, major public company. So they're a little bit more comfortable with the source of funds in cases like that, versus if you're taking funds from, some Eastern European exchange that, they don't know about, right? There's also some other options regionally that are tied into banking, and so sometimes what you can do is you can off-ramp in that way and then transfer. Sometimes people will ask me, they'll say, hey, I'm not going to go to Dubai or something because I can't get banking for crypto there. The way this works is you have banking abroad for your on and off ramping, and then you just transfer into your accounts in Dubai. Or vice versa. So not a big deal. And like I said, there is a lot in terms of OTC services that are just insanely cheap. So that's pretty decent. I can't say I would complain. Other places, you can go through, if you're Canadian, obviously there's some banks that are supportive, some that are less so. Generally speaking, I would say that if you're looking kind of fintech type banks are more on the side of being okay with crypto. That's generally a good rule of thumb. In UK, there's a variety that are okay. I would say generally the private banks are getting to be more okay with it, in part because they want to have the funds. This being said, they'll often, at least up front, impose more due diligence on you to make sure that where the money is coming from is solid. So for example, one of our private bankers from Switzerland, from Julius Baer, was here recently, and I was talking to him about it, and he was mentioning that they actually acquired an institution related to crypto recently, so they're getting on board with that. We've had some pretty good experiences with a variety of others, and there's some specifically crypto supporting banks in Switzerland who are familiar with a lot of different jurisdictions, so that's also very good. So in general, I would say for banking, you kind of have, like, when you're starting out, someplace, if you're looking at non-resident banking, you're looking at for businesses, probably you're looking at Lithuania. Then you're looking at, beyond that, moving to like Swiss type banks. And then there's a few US banks actually that in certain cases will support foreign companies, and so that can also be an option. So anyway, I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions about it, put it in the comments below, send us a message, reach out, book a call. I'm going to look forward to seeing you on the next video.